So we're going to talk about your menstrual cycle and your mindset. We talked about how your menstrual cycle affects your training, how it affects your diet, but now we're going to talk about how it affects your mindset, and this is potentially the most important one because your mindset can dictate how you approach training and diet. So menstrual cycle effects on your mindset. So these can vary from different parts of your cycle, but we're going to look at how it can be affected. So your mood can swing from very, very happy to very, very sad, angry, upset throughout the whole of your cycle. So being aware of the time and how you feel around each part of that cycle, each phase of that cycle, can really help you to understand how you might react to something, how you can adjust your training, how you can adjust your diet. We talked about your diet and maybe put in more calories in certain points, because if you're low on energy and your mood is not fantastic and you're low on calories, you're not going to be feeling it. It's going to make you feel worse rather than make you feel better. And we want you to feel good as often as we can. So understanding your mood and the kind of swings that you might have around different phases can really help you to set yourself up for success. So your motivation will also ebb and flow as well throughout. So knowing when you feel motivated, knowing when you don't feel motivated, knowing when you need a little extra nudge and stuff like that can be really helpful to help you to schedule in workouts, food prep, going for a walk. It can help all these things because you know when you're roughly going to be more motivated, you can make the most of that and support your goals. Your mental energy can go from being full to drained, and so it's important to know when that is. Obviously it can change month to month, but there will likely be clues about when you'll feel mentally alert and amazing, and other times you'll feel drained and tired. So it's important also to know when that is. If you try and learn your exercise in the gym when you're feeling mentally drained, it's not going to be absorbed as much. You're going to find it harder to learn, more frustrating and difficult compared to if we put it in at a different point of the cycle when you feel kind of confident and ready to go and full of energy. That's going to be so different to your perception of how you're doing with that new exercise, and that can change so much down the line. So knowing when to put those things in can be such a huge bonus, and it's something that people don't often think about. So your mental toughness as well. So being aware of your mental toughness within training, diet and lifestyle. So if you're in the gym and you might be able to push through it, last week you could push through this weight and this exercise or these reps, whereas this week you can't. Sometimes you can push through just through sheer will and willpower, and then sometimes you can't. It's important to know when those periods are and not to feel bad about it as they change. Similar with your diet, sometimes you can kind of get through on a bit of willpower and mental toughness, but sometimes you can't, and that is why I don't recommend we all rely on willpower. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. And your self-talk voice, that can change from being very positive, very uplifting, very motivating, to being negative, putting you down, making you feel a bit shit about yourself. So being aware of when that voice might change and why it might change can help you to understand kind of that's not true. You can kind of determine why it's saying that compared to what it's actually thinking. It's saying like the person you talk to the most is yourself, so be conscious of what they say. If you're conscious of what they say and why they've said it, it can help you to understand it's not true or this is why, and it just helps you to kind of set yourself up even better. So next one, here we go. Oh, you're pressing the wrong button. So the considerations on your mindset around your menstrual cycle. So this is where your habits become the most powerful. So the picture there says, change your habits, change your life. So one of the best books I've read was called Atomic Habits, and there's a line in it, he says, we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our habits. And then he says things like, all Olympians, people that go to the Olympics, all want to win the Olympics, but only one person can win in each field. So it's not the goal. That person didn't want it more, they all want it the same. It's not that goal that gets them there, it's the level of their habits along the way that determine how low they drop from that. And so when your mood is low, your motivation is low, your energy is low, your mental energy, your mental toughness, when all that is low, you fall down to your base habits. If your habits are supporting your goals, then you're going to keep moving forward. If your habits aren't in place and they don't enforce your goals, you're going to be kind of falling further and further and starting from behind every time that happens. So this is why it's really important to get good habits in place, ones that suit your lifestyle and are easy to do. So habits become most powerful when we are at our, say, most weakest. Not that it makes you weak, but when the chips are down, you fall back on the things that are your habits, your routines. And if you've got good habits, you don't fall too far. Utilize your motivation when it's high. So your motivation will change week to week, day to day, throughout the whole month. And so it's important to, when you feel good, use that. Go with it. Instead of trying to fight things when it's bad, use it when it's good and really push with it. So if you feel great for 1 week and you think, oh, I could get an extra session in this week, go for it. Do it. If you feel good, go. Then if you think into 2 weeks' time when you're going to feel like a bit shit, and you're meant to do 3 sessions but you can only really manage 2, you've already got 1 in the bank from when you felt great. So when the motivation is high, use it. Also, if you notice that you feel more motivated in the morning compared to the evening, maybe shift your training time and hours, or the time of day that you train, to the morning when you feel more motivated. So you can get it done. It's less of a mental struggle for you to get to the gym after work when you're feeling less than great. So make things easy for yourself. This comes back to similar to the habits. If you've got the food in the house, if you've got food prep done, if you've got easy options to eat at the end of the day, it's easier for you to then cook it and stay on track. If you don't have the food in, if you're not prepared, it's easier for you to order a takeaway, go out for food, maybe look in the sweets cupboard or the crisp cupboard. Make things easy for yourself. Be kind of prepared ahead of time. So when you do feel a bit weaker, a bit kind of mentally tired and low, you don't then go for the things that are going to set you back. The things that are going to keep you moving forward are easily available. And you have to put much thought into it because it's already there for you. And be empathetic to yourself. So this is a really important one. But you can be hard on yourself because if you're mentally kind of drained and down, you're not working out as much, you're not as energetic, you're craving foods that aren't great for your diet. You might feel, I'm bad at this, I can't do this, I'm weak, I've got no willpower. You end up beating yourself up. That negative self-talk voice comes in and it makes you feel bad about yourself, and it's not your fault. It's just a way. It's the way that the period makes you feel. So we're going to talk about being empathetic versus excuses. So they are very commonly mistaken. They are very similar, but they're different. So an excuse is when you do something because you don't want to do it and it doesn't take you any closer to your goal. Showing empathy to yourself is maybe when you don't do something but it has a longer benefit. When you're, say, in the second part of your cycle, the progesterone is high, you're feeling a bit down, but you take a day off to rest, that is you like looking after your body, allowing it to heal at a time when it's not as strong as usual, so that you can then push on further. In the menstrual cycle and diet video, we talked about allowing yourself a few more calories around the time when you need more calories. Allowing that to happen, it's not an excuse and saying, oh, I'm weak because I'm having more calories than I should be. It's showing empathy to your body because it needs it at that time. And when you need it at that time, you can then stick with the calories and your goals for longer, leading to more success in the future. So yeah, like I said, it's important to know the difference between the two. An excuse is not doing it now because you don't want to, but it's not going to get you any closer to your goals. Whereas empathy is not doing it now because you need to not do it, but it does eventually take you closer to your goals. Because a good saying that I like to think about is break before you're broken. So If you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, eventually you're going to break and you have to take a big rest, or you give up and then you have to start all over again. If you take a little break in between, then you're kind of going again and again and again. So empathy is taking that short break for the long run, whereas an excuse is stopping dead and almost not giving up, but it is almost like that, if you understand what I mean. So it's important to be truthful about why you made each choice. So this person here is dragging along their excuses, almost like a slave to their excuses. If you can determine the difference between an excuse and being empathetic, and you can say, right, I showed empathy to myself because I needed this lay-in. I needed to cut that workout in half. I needed those extra calories on that day. If you know that's a real reason and it prolongs your progress, it's not an excuse. It's showing yourself self-empathy, and that's key to long-term success. If you feel like you're carrying around excuses, that can get very heavy. It affects how much you trust yourself and your judgment around food choices, training, lifestyle. And then when you don't trust yourself as much, it makes it a lot harder for you to make decisions in the future because you're always unsure whether it's the right decision. So understanding the difference between empathy and excuses can really help you to take off that load, trust yourself a lot more with the choices you make, and that's going to take you so much further. People don't often trust themselves with their diet. You can get better at your diet, you can get better at your training. It's not you're good or you're bad, you improve over time, but if you don't trust your choices along that journey, it becomes harder for you to then trust yourself more and more. So you're always second guessing your food choices, your training choices, and it can just get very heavy, very demoralizing and very demotivating, and we don't want that. Your period is a time to be empathetic to yourself, not to feel bad for making excuses. So if we go back to the phases of the menstrual cycle video, we talked about the winter being kind of the time when you need to, or the autumn and winter when you need to hibernate, look after your body. It takes longer to rest, it takes longer to recover. That's just a physiological part of life for ladies. And it's not something you should make excuses about or feel bad about. It's something that you need to, be empathetic, look after yourself, put yourself in the best position to then step forward as spring and summer come and make the most of that rather than feeling bad. You don't have to feel bad just because it's a physiological kind of thing that happens. Go with it. Instead of fighting against it, go with it, manage the situation, reduce the damage that can be caused, and you'll be in a much better position when your mood and hormones start to go in your favour. Cool. And that's it for the menstrual cycle and mindset. Hopefully it's helpful. It's obviously very person dependent. There's a lot more things we could talk about there, but hopefully they're the main things that can help you to understand how your menstrual cycle can affect your mindset and ways that you can maybe look at it differently to set yourself up for success now and in the future.